we're going to have a great session. We got about 30 minutes. Org health and AI readiness, kind of the juxtaposition. Org health is a concept that has existed for a long time. Everyone wants a healthy org. Everyone wants to minimize tech debt. And maybe it's hard or very rarely gets prioritized as high up on the backlog as it should, along with a new topic, AI, and ever prevalent. So it's going to be a good juxtaposition of how those things interact and kind of the relationship. And at the end of the day, a healthy org allows for AI success, both maximizing the business outcomes that you're trying to achieve with AI and also reducing the risk, some of the trepidation, if you don't really understand the data and the users and those types of things. So we have a great session here today. Let me just check to make sure. Yep, we have a good cohort of attendees coming in. You can hear me, I can hear you. Friday afternoon. Let's go. So yeah, maybe just real quick on mechanics. So it's going to be interactive. So if you've got questions or topics that you want us to double click on, feel free to interject. I'll be monitoring the chat and the question, and we'll do our best to weave in any specific discussion topics that you might have. And we're both here on LinkedIn and csonar.com. So we're available as a follow-up for any of those that want to go deeper. And with that, let's get into it. So Erickson, for those that don't know you, who are you? What informs your perspective? 4 years from what I can understand.
Yeah. Been at Sonar for 4 years, in the ops ecosystem for even longer than that. I kind of hesitate to even go how far back that is. I look a lot younger than I actually am. But yeah, 4 years at Sonar. Today I head up our go-to-market operations. So not only do I get to or have I talked about Sonar from a working with our customers, I also get to live and breathe the challenges and in the space. And so it's a fun space where I get to steal some of the best ideas from our customers, and we get to work with some of the best and brightest. So I'm excited to chat through this topic today.
Amazing. Yeah, great to have you. And yeah, it is 4 years for Erickson here, so he does look younger than he actually is. So with that, let's get into it. A healthy org. What are the characteristics of a healthy org? What does that mean to you, Erickson?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things. If you had asked me this question, a couple years ago, I would have sat back and been like, you know what, my environment would be healthy if I had kind of standardized data across the fields. I could, build the reports that I needed to support the business across that. And I still think that's incredibly important. That's, we all spend a lot of money on our CRM platforms and the associated tools to be able to report and run the business off of it. But when I think about health and knowing my environment, it's expanded beyond that. And for me, maybe it's because our environment has become more complex. We've got more integrations. There are more fields. We're running more things out of it. We're piping more data to it from different places. But needing the ability to understand the interconnectivity of the data itself and kind of what do things mean, and where are they used, but also, as I just said, what are these fields? I'd love to say that our Salesforce environment is the perfectly clean environment. We've got no tech debt, no excess fields, but being able to come in and say, what are the fields that we need to report revenue on there, and what systems are reading and writing to them, is becoming more and more important, especially in a world where I try to have the ability for more of the team to self-serve out of it. And so it's gone from do we have currency in the currency fields? Do we, our state and countries, synthesized across and we're using the same format, to a much broader definition of health and understanding of the environment.
Yeah, it makes sense. So when you say the data, think about an org Salesforce has been around for a minute here, and an org may have started many, many years back and then kind of sprawled into other business applications and other data elements are required to support those business applications. When you think about data, I guess, what do you commonly see as kind of an unhealthy org? Like what are the characteristics of an unhealthy org from a data understanding standpoint? And then what are the characteristics of a healthy org?
Yeah, I think at its foundation, it's really understanding what are we using today and what does it mean to our business. I talk with customers all the time, and it's, hey, I'm trying to build an agent or I'm trying to build reporting, and I've got 17 ARR fields on my opportunity object. What does that actually mean? Which one are we using? How do I build reporting off of it? And especially in environments where you've got layers of folks that are building reporting, and it's not just us that manage and put fingers to keyboards and build in our environment. It's being able to have them answer that question and give them that all a knowledge. And that's if you can't answer that question, that's an unhealthy environment. But when you can, that starts to get to that healthy side of things of okay, hey, I know what these fields mean. I know that this is what means. So Brian, when you come to me and ask me for quarterly reporting, I can say, yep, this is a source of truth. If you're going to build reporting on your own, here's exactly what you should have, and here's what they mean. Here's how they're calculated. Here's where they're used. So if you're going to do things, in our other systems that we have that you might be doing reporting out of, that is health to me.
Got it. And I wait in ways for those listening in the audience, ways that might be managed or understood is, how many fields are documented? Do you have compliance categories? Do you have definitions, help text? Do you know your stakeholders? So you may look at not just for the population, but also like how well documented it is as a mechanism to weight yourself of health or not. What about as it relates to the users and as maybe another vector of org health?
Yeah, so there's a big piece of it that we think about the user experience. How quickly and how smoothly does the system work? Something that we try to do internally that a lot of our customers and the folks that I talk to in the space are doing. It's how can I improve my users' experience? And down to the AEs or the SDRs or the CSMs that are living and breathing every day inside of the Salesforce environment. How can I make it very easy for them and just present them with the information they need for the place that they're trying to work? Take opportunities as they flow through. Am I just giving them, the information that they need top of fold, so they're not having to massively scroll down, or pages that take forever to load, and then then you run into other challenges of, okay, I'm going to go move this data elsewhere. I'm going to work out of a spreadsheet because Salesforce is just so cumbersome to work in. That absolutely defeats the investment that we're making in this platform. And that is a big piece of how our users, or how I work with our users on working in the environment.
100%. Cool. Let me just quickly check. No questions as of yet. Friday afternoon. We'll so yeah, let's kind of go into where we are now and kind of the impact of AI. Not just Agentforce, but AI in general as it relates to Salesforce. Kind of what are you seeing and how is that affecting what people are considering from an org health standpoint?
Yeah. The consistent theme that I keep having with folks in the space is everybody says we should be doing AI. What should we start with? I can't boil the ocean on this. And so the first question is finding those impactful kind of use cases. You can't boil the ocean. Don't start with the graduate level project for this. And so, that's what we're seeing a lot of in this space is there's so much hype, and, Salesforce is doing a great job of talking about it. The Salesforce team members that I talk to, they're preaching it to them. It's coming from every direction. You can't go on LinkedIn or a Slack community and not have, AI. And to a point, it's almost kind of overwhelming. But again, it gets back to that base question of where do I even start? We've got some customers that I've been working with just to kind of learn from that are doing some really interesting things around serving knowledge base articles to their CSMs. I've got folks that are trying to help ease the ability to generate information from their sales team. So hey, give me a breakdown of all of the actions that have happened on this opportunity. Things like that are really, really exciting places. But again, if you tried to do all of them at once, oh my gosh, you'd be overwhelmed.
Yeah, no, you've got to start somewhere. Starting internal generally makes sense. Least impact to, possible customers or the market. Learn quickly and then evolve from there. What about as it relates to kind of org health? Think about, you're doing AI not just to do AI, but to achieve a business outcome.
Yeah.
Org health, understanding the data, making sure that you're not pulling the wrong ARR field. Like, can you just describe why some of the underlying root causes of an unhealthy org are more potentially more problematic for when you add in the AI layer?
Yeah, totally. And it goes back to exactly what you said with the org health side and just understanding the data. Okay, if I'm going to build an agentic layer on top of my Salesforce environment, I need to make sure I'm pointing it to the right information and making sure that I know what that is, and that I'm pointing it to the right fields and the right objects, but also that you're not adding undue risk to that. I'm not exposing things that shouldn't be. That's a consistent theme. And when you think about classifying information, being able to come in and say, okay, these are the fields that I want to expose. So planning out that first step that you've got. Okay, this is the data that we need. This is kind of the outcome that I want to have for the business. What fields do I actually need? And making sure that you're just looking at that information, so you're not exposing things, especially in environments where you're pulling in sensitive information. It's incredibly important to have that base definition of your Salesforce environment to say, yep, these are the ones, and then being able to map that out. So you've got that proof point of, yep, this is actually what we're pulling. This is the access that it has. And so you've got that level of trust in there. And Salesforce is doing some great things with some of the trust layers that they've got in Agentforce. And there are other ways to go about that and some of the others that are out in the space as well.
100%. Yeah, and if you don't have you need to have a baseline of how you feel about the data. So, not only what it is and what does it mean to your users, but who should it be shared with, and should it leave an org, or should it leave your company, or should it go through an external integration? So that without that understanding of the data sensitivity and how that affects the risk profile, even with maximizing the business outcome, you might be exposing yourself to a risk that if you knew, you wouldn't the business wouldn't sign off on.
Totally.
Great. Let's see. No questions. We'll keep going. So, yeah, we want to go to AI, and my org feels good. I've been doing all the right things, and think I have a pretty healthy org and know what's how I want to do it. How do I confirm that? What are the types of things that I should include as part of some type of AI readiness to make sure that I'm doing the right things, and I have confidence that I'm doing the right things, and the evidence that we're doing the right things from a data and governance standpoint?
Yeah. I mean, it really ties back to that understanding or belief of a healthy Salesforce environment. And again, that's not just data quality. That's not just, do you have, Erickson Tweedy at Sonar? And it really goes down to that inventorying and mapping out your data. I mean, being able to come in and set that layer in there. So again, starting with that, do we understand our data? Do we know what we have in the environment? Sometimes taking this as an opportunity to clean up some of the old pieces of your environment. And then beyond that, then you start to work through kind of a checklist that we've started to see from our customers. Is running through and, okay, great, I've got my inventory of my data mapped out. From there, I want to start to work in and start to put that project together of, okay, as I'm going to start in and document data. So do I have descriptions? Do I have help text on the fields that are important, that are going to remain in the environment? And am I starting to classify that? So as I'm going through and doing that, right, is it, is the financial information, are we putting that as confidential? Are we, if for environments that we work with and customers that we've worked with that are in, regulated industries, are you doing the HIPAA? Are you doing, your data regulations around that? So making sure you're starting to classify these pieces out. And that's just that foundational layer of it. So it's, hey, what do we have today? Do we know what it is? And are we classifying it properly? And then that next layer, you start to get into of really reviewing the access. Something that is such a challenge today is, hey, who has access to the data in our environment? Which users are exposed to, should they have this access? Have we given folks the ability to export all of the customers that we have from our environment, and should they have that? And then then you start to get into a little bit more of the foundational layer. So once you've really set that base, if you will, as we kind of have across the top here, it's understanding, it's classifying, it's understanding the access, and then you start to get into the fun stuff, right? Hey, let's clean up, let's set our foundation. The data quality piece is important. A lot of the agents, though, have helped move past that. But you really need to understand and take that opportunity to clean up some of the tech that you've got. And then the next layer from this is really starting to map that out. So, okay, great. We've got this high level picture of what our agent, our first agent, what we want it to be. We've set the foundational pieces we've defined the data. We've removed some of the tech debt. But it's making sure that what we want this agent to do is only going to have access to the information that it needs. And that's where you start to get into some of those layers. And then from there, you start to get into, just as we do with building in Salesforce natively, it's, let's make sure that we're logging and auditing properly, right? We've built our error conditions into our automations as we would. And so it's setting up those fail points. And then as you work through, it's starting to understand, okay, what changes are happening to this? Are we turning on advanced logging or enhanced logging in Agentforce? And then the last layer of it is really running through and saying, okay, let's test these things out. Let's make sure it works. Again, to your point from earlier, it's, let's start with a small pilot piece. Let's roll it out to a small subset. One of those challenges that we have in Salesforce environments sometimes is finding those core end users. Something I was talking with somebody on the other day of, like, how do you identify maybe it's if you're building an agent for your sales team, how do I find those couple AEs that are a little more technical that I can lean into to help me work through this? What is actually valuable for them, and testing and improving on with that. So, that's really what we've seen a lot with the conversations that we're having around this.
Makes a ton of sense. Yeah, and I don't know. I'm not a rocket scientist, and I know that this is not rocket science, but it's really hard. And hopefully for the folks on the line, like, these are, it's kind of logical in some respects. It's the same thing that you would do with any new application or any new set of a platform that you brought in. But you have to do it. And I guess the impending upside of AI needs to be balanced with, if your org is a mess right now, and you add on kind of the exponential impact of enabling that mess in the world, like, we've heard customers talk about a dumpster fire. Their org is a dumpster fire. That, any number of SIs in there, or integrators or admins, and it's just evolved over time. And if you had a dumpster fire and you add the AI layer to you're adding a lot of gasoline to that dumpster fire, and you might have a wildfire, and one that you can't get, that you have a very difficult time getting back in the bag. And that is not a situation you want to be in. And so if you do the right things early, in this order, and we're certainly here to help if those are looking for help, you can do it very logically and make a lot of progress.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's funny. Even you'd mentioned, going from a dumpster fire to a forest fire. It's that is not a unique problem. Of everybody's got some pieces of the environment that that are suboptimal, and really leaning in and taking the opportunity to level set your environment and give you that foundational piece. It's going to set you up for success. And
100%.
that's, Agentforce is a great driver for that,
Right.
or AI is a great driver. It's it's the things we know we should do to make our environments more scalable.
100%. So we've got about 7 minutes left. We did get a couple, let's go through some questions. And for those that have not asked their question yet, now would be a good time. So inventory mapping, classification, all typically components of data governance. To what extent is data governance being formally recognized as part of a readiness activity? Maybe let's take that, and there's a follow-up to it, but let's take that first.
Yeah. Data governance is one of those fun ones. And in the readiness, I think a big piece of a healthy environment is a certain level of data governance. Something that I've had a number of conversations around, especially with folks trying to build out data dictionaries, is you're not going to document and understand everything in the environment, at least not first, right? This is an evolving process. So I think with what we're seeing, there has to be some sort of formal data governance process. And that can be, we're not talking about committees and things like that. You don't have to roll that out in your first phase. But there really should be a level of, yes, data governance is something that we should be doing as practitioners in this space. And being able to have that is incredibly important.
Yeah, and I think the maybe just the terminology wise. So data governance was, it's always important, and hopefully you have a data governance organization or group within the company that includes Salesforce in the scope to do that. I think, some of the basics, org health, and understanding the data, that's a huge miss for many companies in the ecosystem. Like the concept of a data dictionary, too many companies still use Excel spreadsheets that are offline, that are asynchronous, that are inaccurate as soon as they're deployed, and that only look at things like help text and don't look at things like stakeholders, or don't look. So I guess I think if part of the balance is, when you add activities like a data governance, a group to inform readiness, it feels like you're adding a lot of structure, and you want to add structure while also going fast. Like if you start with just let's build a data dictionary to inform the data governance conversation, to say, of the 1,000 fields in my org, these are the fields that we're going to add into this AI use case. Can I get sign off on these 10 fields? Maybe just a simpler path to make progress. Because if you try to, I guess if you try to build a data governance organization or structure because of AI, you might be, I don't know, you might trip, you might add moving parts that you can't get through that prevent how fast the business wants to go with AI. I don't know. I kind of wove that in, but yes, your answer was much better there. Excellent. Cool. We have another use case. Yeah, examples. Kind of what examples are you been hearing and of Agentforce?
Yeah. There's two that jump out to me. One is a little more sales, kind of your sales focused, seller focused, if you will. And this was one that I thought was really interesting, and it's pulling in kind of broad swaths. They're using a call recording software, bringing that data in and being able to query across multiple opportunities to say, hey, company ABC, these are all of our interactions, email, all of the activities that you're tracking across. Have we had these kind of conversations? Being able to ask questions of that. That was one that was really, really interesting to me, that we came into. There's a couple vendors in that space that are also kind of building some of that into their product already. They're doing it, trying to bring that in on the Salesforce side. And the other one is More on the customer success side, it's I've got or service side. It's, hey, I've got questions about particular things coming in. We've got a great knowledge base. I want to be able to ask the questions of this. So, hey, I need help configuring component ABC. Asking that question and having pulling in the knowledge base article and information about that as kind of their first step into it. It was a really interesting one from the more service or support side that I'm hearing.
Cool. Yeah, great questions. And I'm just going to do a quick check to see if there's any other quick questions here, given we only have a minute. Yeah, so we only have a couple minutes left, and we'll follow up with the other questions offline. Erickson and myself are available, LinkedIn, see Sonar. So Erickson, maybe as you're going into the weekend, what any recommendations on what folks should do Monday morning to make progress here?
Oh man, the first thing is find a use case that is going to be impactful, that you feel like you can start to get some teeth into, but isn't boiling the ocean. I think that's something that is really the first key step. And then once you do that, the rest of it is just building blocks to get to success. But it's very much it's find the use case that isn't the graduate level project, and start playing around.
100%. Yeah, it's a great call out. Great call out. And yeah, I guess the ad that I would say is build a data dictionary, review your data dictionary. If you don't understand the data, the outcomes will be less optimized, and you may be exposing yourself and your company to risk that you didn't intend. So in parallel to what Erickson's focused on in terms of use case selection, you can start to do the data dictionary, and you can probably do that in a even in your existing forms. Start understanding and mapping, all the key things of the data ASAP, because that's going to be a critical path to success. And with that, Friday afternoon, Erickson and everybody on the line, thanks for joining. Erickson, thanks for sharing your expertise, and everyone go have an amazing weekend.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
All right, we'll chat soon. Be good.